Yeah. Family, y'all. Just keep it tight, keep it tight, keep it tight. Oh, right. Yeah. Here we go, here we go.
The principle of double effect, then, is that it's morally permissible to perform an action that has two effects, one that's good and one that's bad, if certain conditions are met. And this is where it becomes sticky for me, because what are the conditions? So, okay, we're going to shoot in self-defense. There's a good outcome of that, I live, and a bad outcome, the other person may die. It's okay to choose the one, so long as certain conditions are met. Number one, the act must be good. Okay? It leads to my life, so it seems that there's something good in that. We must intend the good outcome and not the bad. Okay? I want to live. Not that I want to kill the other person. I want to live. Okay? So it seems that that criteria is met. We must not violate the Pauline Principle, that is, doing evil for a good effect, and that's probably the stickiest one of all, because by pulling the trigger, I'm violating the Pauline Principle there. And it must be a serious situation where a basic human value is being destroyed, meaning he's threatening my life. It's serious. So it seems that I'm warranted to pull the trigger. If it's not for the Pauline Principle, which is the only thing that causes me to hesitate, and I can't hesitate for long because he's pointing that gun at me. Another example of a complex situation. So, according to natural law, it's inconsistent with natural law to sterilize oneself, because again, that's destroying the possibility of procreation, which is an inclination that we have as human beings. But what if you're told that the only way to cure your illness is to undergo an operation that's going to result in your sterilization? Then the sterilization is simply a side effect where, again, that action has a good and a bad effect. The good effect is that you'll live if you undergo that operation. The bad effect is that you'll leave the operation sterile. If you intend the good effect that you live, then you're performing an action that's consistent with natural law, according to natural law theory. Another complex situation. According to natural law, it's inconsistent with natural law not to be social, right? We are social people, so it's inconsistent with natural law to not be social. But what happens if I'm a smoker? And I've been smoking 3 packs a day, but you know what? I've been clean for 2 days now. And I'm so proud because I'm going strong for 2 days. But now my friends want me to go out tonight for drinks. If I go out with my friends, who are all smokers, what's going to happen? I'm going to be tempted to smoke. So the principle of double effect. Okay, there's a good and a bad here. I chose not to go out with my friends. The good thing is that that way I'm not smoking, and it leads to the preservation of my life and my health. The bad thing is that I'm no longer this social person. Was what I just did good or bad? Right? It depends on what you intend. If I intended not to go out with my friends simply because I am antisocial, then that would be bad. But if I intended the good, then it's okay. In this case, I intended the good, which was to preserve my life and health. So it's morally permissible. It's okay. Another complex situation. According to natural law, it's inconsistent with natural law to acquire reading. Excuse me. It's consistent with natural law. Let's try that one more time. Another example of complex situation. According to natural law, it's consistent with natural law to acquire knowledge, and one of the ways that we acquire knowledge is by reading. I saw lots of people tonight buy a book. Oh, good for you. Got news for you. Reading that book may cause strain on your eyes, which may cause you to go blind sooner in life. Just saying. Okay, think about that for a moment. Your eye doctor tells you to read less because the eye strain is bad for your eyes. What do? You're naturally prone to knowledge, so you want to read. We're all pushing our books back toward Deacon Boyle already, aren't we? You can have the book back. We're all prone to read that book because we want the knowledge that's in that book. But at the same time, that's the good. The bad effect is the strain on our eyes. The eye doctor said you need to read less. So you got to be thinking about the strain on your eyes. Okay? What's the question come down to? Which one do you intend? Do you intend the bad effect? Do you really want to strain your eyes and go blind? No, you're not intending that. What you're intending is the good effect. It comes down to your intention. What is your intention? Is your intention good or bad? In this case, it seems your intention is good. Reading leads to knowledge. So go ahead and read that book. Let's just pause right now before we get into various questions for reflection. Any thoughts stirring in our mind about natural law? Because we can laugh now that we're past the 1960s. Before the 1960s, this was the message of the church. And some of us may be old enough to remember the church's message on such things as procreation. If we had more time, it would be fascinating to explore the questions for reflection that Mizzoni proposes in his work. For instance, he talks about Martin Luther King's letter from the Birmingham City Jail, where Martin Luther King says, "How does one determine when a law is just or unjust? A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God." He's bringing in notions of divine law. So how do his words fit with human law, divine law, moral law, natural law, eternal law? How do all these things fit together? Another question. According to Aquinas' natural law ethics, before the 1960s we were teaching these, is artificial contraception morally permissible? And what was the answer that Pope Pius VI came up with for the Roman Church? Is not. Why? Because you're not open to the possibility of procreation. That's why. His argument was based on natural law ethics. What about other things? Killing in self-defense, masturbation, gay sex? If we were to have time to unpack these things, the question is raised. Do those things fit with these, what Thomas Aquinas believed to be human inclinations? Just as the ball rolls down the hill, we are inclined toward these four things. How do our actions fit with those? According to that medieval worldview. If a soldier throws herself on a grenade to protect others, is the action suicidal or morally wrong? She obviously is not preserving her life. There are various challenges that we can see with natural law ethics. It seems that she's doing a good, but there's an evil that's coming out of that as well. Suppose some prisoners have information that will save a large number of lives. Think about that for a moment. We have the prisoners, they're in jail. They have the information that could save lives. So the only way to get the information out of them is to resort to some of our tactics. Waterboarding, maybe even killing one. Okay, so let's kill one to show them that we're serious about this. Are we justified to kill one prisoner in order to get the information from the others? Is it okay to sacrifice one life, considering the good of the other lives? What does natural law ethics say about that? What about the Pauline Principle? How does the Pauline Principle square with that? How does chastity fit with natural law, right? Chastity goes against that natural inclination to procreate, but at the same time we've esteemed it as a value in the church for so many centuries. Philosopher Judith Jarvis Thompson says, this is really, I hope you don't have nightmares from this tonight, but she says, imagine waking up and you find yourself connected to a violinist who's unconscious and who has a fatal kidney ailment. And what's happened is that you were kidnapped by the Society of Music Lovers. Why? Because you have the right blood type. And so they kidnapped you and hooked you up to this violinist so that your kidneys are being used to take the poison out of the blood of the other, right? Your kidneys do that all the time, right? It's, you're being used. If you unplug yourself, the other person dies. Is that okay? How's that for a philosophical question?
I saw that, this wealthy man, he had to get a kidney, and his wife said, well, let's go to Colombia and buy one from this poor lady.
Ooh.
She sold it. She sold her kidney to save her children.
Right.
Because she made a lot of, $5,000, so it's a lot of money for her to feed her family. And she did it for the good to save her family. And
principle of double effect. There's a good and there's a bad outcome to that. Bad outcome, you're listening
In
to
the
Vital Organ.
reporter, the
Bad outcome,
question,
you're listening to Vital Organ. Good outcome, you're saving the family.
the reporter questioned this, the wife, the wealthy wife over here in the United States. Why did, you know, well, we had to save our husband. I had to save my husband, and this lady needs the money, so.
So the good thing, it seems, about natural law ethics is that finally we're asking questions that deal with more complex situations. The challenge is that, various challenges, we've introduced God into the whole conversation, which is going to be difficult for some people. And two, it's still these sticky areas that we are not all agreeing on. Obviously, if 98% of Roman Catholic women are using artificial conception, they're not buying into natural law ethics and how it is that procreation should be the end of, the goal of having sex.
Knowledge made the difference.